Hi everyone, it's Sandra and this is Peekaboo and my first check-in after the harvest 2 weeks ago. Now this was about 80% new bedding 2 weeks ago. So the worms had about 20% of their familiar bedding still in this bin, which I always think gives them a better chance of settling in. I did a lovely long feeding zone. I'll put a picture in here of the feeding zone that we did last time. They've been eating my cracker box. Look at that. Look at the holes in the cracker box. That's cool. And the Amazon mailer is almost a thing of the past. So I will bury these two things at the bottom of today's feeding zone. I'm assuming I'm going to feed. It's been 2 weeks. There's a big population in here, so I think I'm gonna look at some hungry worms. Let's just turn over this bin. So like I said, the feeding zone was down the middle and it's all new bedding. Otherwise, well, 80% new bedding. So there's really no end where I fed and end that I didn't. I'm seeing a bit of dryness here. If you hear that, that's a bit dry. That's a thing with a newer bin that's gonna dry out faster. That's why I don't deplete and add all new bedding. But look at this. Does this look like a bin that's 2 weeks after harvest? This is a big population, and this bedding is not very deep. So I'm going to see cocoons in here. I know I am, because they couldn't help but bump into each other. The bedding isn't that deep. I do have some chunky bits left over from last time, but look at, I mean, this is looking like they've been busy for 2 weeks converting the new bedding already into some beautiful castings for me. I'm just going to, as I casually find bigger bits so that I can sink them into the bottom. Yeah, this is another dry corner. The corner's dried out on me. That means when I turn over this center, that's where the worms are going to be. Because the corners, listen, look at that, dry. Not going to find worms there. Although, prove me a liar. There's a worm in a dry corner. Put him in there. Let's see, this corner, yeah, likewise, dry. The roly-polies are in there. They don't seem to mind the dryness. Yeah, dry right along this edge. Yeah, I'm putting all this dry stuff over there and starting what's going to be a feeding zone, and I'll put chunky bits there too. But yeah. All right, that's the dry stuff. Now let's look in the middle. Come out. Where are you guys? There you are. There you are. Yeah, I knew there'd be moisture in the middle where the food was. That's where the worms are. So they need a good feeding and a moist feeding, because this whole bin is on the dry side. It's not dry, so just to reassure you, it's not dry. I'll try to, I don't want to do a handful here because I've got too big a worm density here. But this dry end here, I'm going to give a nice, so I'm going to actually do what I've done before with this bin. I'm going to spread the feeding out over half the bin so that I get good moisture in half the bin and stack up the more moist stuff here. So this whole half is going to get the moisture on it. Here's my feeding, some previously frozen food scraps. Is there moisture? Yeah, it's got dribbles down the bottom, so it will be moist. Yeah, there's moisture there. It's got the pulverized eggshell in it already, so no need to add it separately. I pulverize it in a coffee grinder that only is used for eggshell grit, and then I put it into the food processor in the last couple pulses. So this isn't hugely moist food, but you know, again, I don't want to go overboard. I'll just add a little bit of carbon so I don't dry out the bin with too much carbon. Normally I would add more carbon than this, but like I said, I want to just be a little bit cautious with this bin because I'm sensing it is a little dry. Then I will pull some of the existing material over top. So yeah, does this look like a bin that was just harvested? No. The worms were really busy in the last 2 weeks. Once the bin has started to accumulate a lot of castings, and there are the cocoons I told you I'd be seeing, it will retain moisture better than this. The new bedding will dry out faster, so that's a caution. After a harvest, I probably shouldn't have let it go 2 weeks without a check-in, because I would have dampened it or given it a feeding sooner than now. But I think it's going to be just fine. Of course, you're not here to remind me to put this down the bottom of a feeding zone, so I forgot. But you know, this is okay. These old carbon bits that I thought I would put down the bottom of the feeding zone, they will just go on the top and they will form a little bit of a moisture barrier, you know, to prevent moisture loss. So that's okay. And then of course this plastic that I had found all those worms on top is a really good fit for this bin. I'm surprised the corners dried out as much as they did. All right, everyone, so that is Peekaboo. The first feeding 2 weeks after a harvest. Everything is looking good. Thanks so much for watching. Get the roly-polies off the wall, get them back down into the bin. All right, bye for now.